In the centre of London, on a lively commercial street, there is a bar invisible to ordinary people. This is the gathering place of wizards, the Broken Cauldron Bar. The bar is dimly lit, the walls are mottled, and it is full of the smell of cheap butter beer. Sean Grills, an 11-year-old boy, is walking towards the dining table with 2 full glasses of butter and honey beer. Poor little Sean, old Tom has called for a beer again. The bald wizard took the beer and said loudly toward the counter. "Damn Jamie, don't take me so mean. Little Sean lives and eats mine. Is there any problem in asking him to help in his free time?" Old Tom replied. "Let Dumbledore know that if you let the boy who survived the catastrophe serve you as a waiter, he will definitely die of anger." Sean grinned, "I am more willing to help below than staying in the utility room upstairs." In response to Sean's answer, Old Tom nodded with a satisfied smile. Old Tom likes this kid very much, not only because he is sensible, but also because his reputation has brought considerable income to the bar. Sean Grills, the boy who survived the catastrophe, is famous as Harry Potter, the only survivor of the Avidazuo curse. But it was not the Dark Lord Voldemort who cast the spell on him, but his crazy follower, the madwoman Bellatrix Lestrange, who tortured the Longbottoms and later killed her own church brother Sirius Black. As for why she wants to kill Sean, it must start with his small family. The Grills family is a family of little wizards, incomparable to those pure-blooded families that have been passed down for centuries. Sean's grandfather was the first wizard in the Grills family, and Sean's father was also a wizard, but his uncle Herns was a dumb gun. During the dark 10 years of Voldemort's rule, people in the magical world were panicked. Sean's grandfather was an employee of the Ministry of Magic, but because he was afraid of Voldemort, he turned to Death Eaters. The irony is that Sean's father, secretly a Death Eater, betrayed Voldemort and joined the Order of the Phoenix in 1980. Death Eaters have never been merciful to traitors. The madwoman Bellatrix led someone to kill Sean's parents, and cold-blooded Sean, who was still in the swaddling clothes. Xiao Xion was killed on the spot. After all, her mother would not use ancient guardian magic, and today's Xion is another soul who has traveled through the 21st century after his death. Sean was a college entrance examination graduate in his previous life. When he drove out to play with his driver's license during the summer vacation, he died in a car accident. When he woke up again with his eyes open, he had become a 2-year-old child. After waking up, Sean was rescued by the Auror, who rushed to him and sent to the Broken Cauldron Bar, his uncle Hernsna. Herns is the chef of the Broken Cauldron Bar and is now Sean's legal guardian. Sean is secretly protected in the Broken Cauldron Bar, and Bella doesn't know that the child who had been killed by Avada himself is still alive. Until a year later, Voldemort went to kill Harry's family, but the protection curse on Harry bounced Avidazuo's life, causing him to be seriously injured, and the Death Eater power also fell. After, the news that Sean was still alive was spread. The crazy woman Bella was shocked and wanted to kill Sean again, but unfortunately she had been imprisoned in Azkaban. At the age of 5, Sean awakened his magical talent, and his uncle Herns felt very relieved. "Sean, you are the hope of the Grills family." Herns gave Sean a kiss. There was a chill in Sean's heart, and he didn't care about Grills's family, and what made him care more about his own eyes. Xiaoan found that when he looked at other people one day, they were covered with a faint white light. After the magic power is awakened, the eyes become weird. "Do I have glaucoma?" But it didn't take long for Sean to overthrow this idea. Because of having seen Harry Potter in his previous life, although Sean's understanding of the magic world cannot be said to be comprehensive, he should know more than most students at Hogwarts. It took Sean a month to finally figure out what was going on with his eyes. His eyes only show white light when looking at wizards, magic creatures, or magic items. And when he saw other wizards casting spells, he could even see the magic frame on the wand. After living in this world for a few years, Sean discovered that the composition of a magic is not that simple. It is not just chanting a spell and waving a wand. In his understanding, there are three major elements that constitute magic: magic frame, spell, and spiritual power. The magic frame is the complicated three-dimensional model of lines that he saw on other wizards' wands when they were casting spells. Mental power includes emotion and will. Sean's own magic talent is not bad, and with these eyes that can see through magic, he knows that he has already turned on the plugin. With these eyes of magic, learning magic later will be more effective. There are all kinds of wizards in the Broken Cauldron Bar. Sometimes they will use some small magic for fun, and Sean will write down the magic frame on their wand. Reading www.yuyugonshu.com. He once watched Jamie, the Bald, cast a very basic floating spell, which was taught in Hogwarts's one-year course. He tried to carefully memorize the magic frame and spells of the floating spell. Later, he asked Herns for Hogwarts' first-year textbooks, even though he was only 5.5 years old, and he was still a few years away from school. But Herns readily agreed to his request. In Herns's view, Sean is going to Hogwarts sooner or later, and he can read the textbook earlier to preview it earlier. Broken Cauldron Bar is just in front of Diagon Alley, and Herns did not spend much time getting a few shabby first-year textbooks that might be transferred to Nine Hands. The fineness of this book is all paved. I guess I bought it from a scrap shop. Sean doesn't matter, he just wants to use the magic in the textbook to verify his conjecture. He searched through several textbooks, and soon he found the unit of the levitating curse. This unit has 4 pages. The first 2 pages are about the origin of the levitating curse. Sean was not interested in this, and immediately turned to the page where he was talking about casting spells. The 2 paragraphs above are about spells and casting actions. At the bottom is the magic frame describing the floating spell and a 3-dimensional picture. Damn, it's so complicated. It really depends on textbooks. Unless it's a schoolmaster like Hermione, ordinary students can't learn it in a day or 2. Sean secretly rejoiced, a picture with a paragraph of annotations. It's not as simple as looking directly at the magic frame on the spot. The floating curse magic frame built by Bald Jamie, Sean has seen it twice, and it is not difficult. He knows that even more advanced magic is a combination of several or even a dozen magic frames. Even if he can see the frames, it is very difficult to remember them. When Harry was in 6th grade, he got Snape's textbook when he was young and asked him to open it on potions. My eyes are far more perverted than Snape's textbook. Sean was quite confident with these eyes. Sean, who is now 11 years old, has received the admission letter from Hogwarts 2 days ago, and more people come to see him at the Broken Cauldron Bar. He is Sean Grills, that boy as famous as Harry Potter? A red-haired middle-aged asked. Yes, Arthur. Old Tom replied. Sean knows who the red-haired middle-aged man and his wife and 3 children are, the Weasley family, one of the 28 pure-blooded families in the wizarding world. What a catastrophe, boy, the Grills family are all betrayers. I think he can survive Bellatrix. It must be his father who made some deal with the Death Eaters. A wizard was sitting. Said mockingly on the side. Sean's grandfather betrayed the Ministry of Magic, Sean's father betrayed the Death Eaters, so both sides are disgusted with the Grills family, and some people call Sean the son of betrayal. This situation makes Sean feel that he is not human inside and out. Fortunately, he is not the soul of a child, otherwise he might be depressed after hearing these remarks for a long time. Children, don't listen to them. Your parents are brave. They fought for justice. Weasley knew Sean's parents. The Grills betrayed the Death Eaters and joined the Order of the Phoenix. Although it was only half a year, they would rather die than tell Bella the location of the headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix. It's okay, Mrs. Weasley, I'm used to it. Sean said. In the past few years, the wizard in the Cauldron Bar has been praised and scolded. Fortunately, he is a traverser and doesn't care about these remarks. Do you know me? Molly was a little surprised. The red hair of the Weasley family, I heard many people mention it in the bar. Sean looked at the bright hair color of this family. "Look at this kid, how clever!" Molly praised. The twin boys behind Molly, George, and Fred made faces at Sean. It didn't take long for Sean to walk through this world, and he knew that his body was 2 years older than Harry. In other words, when he went to Hogwarts to go to school, he was in the same class as the Way family twins and Cedric. It seems that Hogwarts won't be boring anymore. Sean knows well the prank talents of these two troublemakers. During the depressing time when Umbridge was in charge of Hogwarts, they were these two. The prank genius brought happiness to the students. There is also that Cedric, an extremely outstanding top student in the same grade, but sacrificed in front of the trophy of the Triwizard Tournament. If possible, Sean doesn't want Fred and Cedric to die, he can only do his best to avoid the tragedy. Sean, who has been practicing magic at the age of 5½, has taught himself Hogwarts 1st to 3rd grade courses, using ancestral pagoda materials purchased from the scrap shop. The curse of the 1st grade is not difficult. You must know that Hermione had taught herself several simple magic before entering the school. But by the 3rd grade, the curse of some magic frames was not so easy for Sean to understand, so he always borrowed it. The opportunity of old Tom to help was close to the wizards in the bar. Over the past few years, the bald wizard Jamie has become very familiar with Sean. Sean often talks to him, and then tentatively asks him about spells that he doesn't understand. When Jamie demonstrates the magic, Sean concentrates on it. Write down the composition of the magic frame. It's just that the guests in the bar don't have the patience of the professors in the college. Jamie doesn't come to the bar every day, so after 5½ years, Sean has learned by himself and secretly, and he has only finished the 3-year course. Of course, this is just the curse. Partly, there is no condition to teach yourself potions in the bar. Sean, you have also received the admission letter from Hogwarts, right? We are going to Diagon Alley to buy first-year textbooks. Do you want to go together? Molly asked. Sean nodded. He doesn't need to buy the books anymore, just use those broken books, but he hasn't bought the wand yet. Although Ollivander's wand shop is behind the Broken Cauldron bar, he didn't receive it. Before the admission letter, Sean couldn't buy a magic wand. At this time, a dirty blonde middle-aged man with long slender eyes walked over. He took out 10 gallons from his greasy pocket and handed them to Sean. Uncle Hearns. Sean, go buy a magic wand. Hearns placed hope on Sean. He was a dumb cannon himself and couldn't cast spells. The Grills family could only rely on Sean to pass it on. Little Sean! Old Tom yelled, and then a small grey cloth sack was thrown from the counter. Sean stretched out his hand to catch it, and saw that the weight was at least 20 gallons. Sean smiled at old Tom. Good old Tom, thank you. Little guy, go buy a new robe. Anyway, he is also a celebrity, a boy who survives a catastrophe. Sean thought to himself, this old Tom is usually stingy and shamelessly call him a child laborer, but he didn't expect him to be quite nice. Sean did not inherit the inheritance of his parents like Harry did. His parents left nothing. Uncle Hearns was also a poor man. He was bleeding out of 10 gallons. Mom, I want a new robe too. The Way family twins said in unison. Molly smiled awkwardly. George, Fred, let's go. Sean knows that there are many children in the Weasley family, and raising children is too expensive. The younger brothers often wear older brothers' clothes, but Sean really has no money, otherwise he doesn't mind buying new clothes for the Way family brothers. Sean followed the Weasleys through the magic wall behind the Broken Cauldron bar and entered Diagon Alley, one of the best commercial streets in the magic world, and Sean was already very familiar with it. The Weasleys walked straight to Lihen bookstore, and Sean called Molly at the back. Mrs. Weasley, I don't think I will go to the Lihen bookstore. I have already bought my teaching materials. All I need is a wand and a wizard robe. Molly nodded, okay, see you later, Ollivander. Sean, a familiar one came to the magic wand shop Ollivander founded in 382 BC. When he opened the door to enter the shop, the owner Ollivander was standing on the ladder looking for the magic wand. Ollivander! Sean yelled softly. It's little Sean. Ollivander heard Sean's voice without turning his head. For Sean, a kid who grew up in the Broken Cauldron Bar, all the shopkeepers in Diagon Alley knew him. I received the admission letter from Hogwarts. Sean said. Ollivander immediately understood what Sean meant. He drew a box of wands from a shelf full of spider webs. 14 inches, Hollywood, the core of the rod is the nerve of the dragon. Sean took the magic wand for 5.5 years of self-study. He just remembered the magic framework and never had the opportunity to cast spells with the magic wand. At the moment when he got the magic wand, he felt that the magic had found a catharsis. Wave it. Ollivander motioned. Sean nodded. He not only waved it, but also cast a basic magic, Yugatum Leviosa. Sean's magic power slowly forms the magic frame through the medium of the magic wand, and the quill in front of him floats under the action of the floating spell. Although the spell is successful, Sean feels it, and the process is very twisted. Ollivander is not surprised that Sean knows how to magic. After all, he is a child born in a wizard's family and lives in a Broken Cauldron Bar. Old Tom will also teach him in his spare time. Sean shook his head. Ollivander understood, and immediately gave him the second wand. 10 inches, red cedar, and phoenix feathers. Sean, still cast a levitating charm, this time feeling more difficult than the last one, he shook his head again. This is a normal child. Finding a wand that suits you is not so easy. Ollivander said patiently. Try this one, 14.5 inches, chestnut tree, unicorn hair. Sean took it, and then shook his head. Try this one again. Sean shook his head. Try this one again. Sean still shook his head. After trying 20 more wands, Ollivander said with embarrassment on his old face, You are really a picky wand master. Xiaoan was also depressed. When would he try this one after another? Suddenly he thought of something. He looked at Ollivander and asked. Ollivander, you said before, it's the wand that chooses the wizard, not the wizard who chooses the wand. Ollivander was taken aback. He did say this, and he nodded. Yes, that's the case. The wand will choose the right owner. Then I will try. Will this work? Sean said. Ollivander didn't know what Sean was going to do, but Sean stretched out his immature little hand, put the palm of his right hand up, and said in his mouth, Come on with the magic wand. This is not a spell, just a slogan that Sean chanted casually, but there is a complete magic frame in his palm, that is the magic frame of the floating spell. For 5.5 years, Sean could only study the theory and magic framework without a magic wand, but he had practiced a magic that casts spells without a magic wand, that is, the floating magic. It is not uncommon for people in the magical world to be able to cast spells without a wand, and there are even more people who can cast spells without a spell. The magic wand is a medium that can intelligently coordinate the magic in the wizard's body. If the magic wand is not used, the difficulty of constructing the magic framework will increase several times. As for the spell, it is the coordinated magic framework. Ollivander was shocked by Sean. What a talent this is, he can cast spells without a stick at a young age. The Grills family is really an incredible talent. At this time, among thousands of wands, one wand felt Sean's magic power. It swayed twice in the box, and then slowly flew out from the bottom layer of the 12th row. This box of wands after flying out, the remaining wand box lost its balance and collapsed suddenly. Ollivander is not surprised. Such things as the wand box collapsing often happen, so his shop has been messed up all the time, and now he is more concerned about the box of wands that fly out by himself. The wand box was suspended in the palm of Sean's right hand. He opened the box with his left hand and took out the wand. The moment Ollivander saw the wand, he read his texture. 15 inches, black walnut, the tail feathers of the night skew. It is a powerful wand. Black walnut is not as common as ordinary walnut wands. The owner it seeks must have keen intuition and strong insight. It has a well-known quirk and is extremely sensitive to internal conflicts. If its holder deceives itself to any degree, it will instantly lose its magic power. If it matches a sincere and self-aware owner, it will be the most magic wand of all. Loyal, most impressive, unique when casting various types of spells. Sean listened carefully, knowing it. Doesn't this mean that you have to have a B number in your heart? He still has the tail feathers of the night skies. He seems to remember that Dumbledore's old wand also used the tail feathers of the night skies. Yeki? Is it the creature that can only be seen by people who have seen death? Sean asked. You know? Yes, Yeki was once considered an inauspicious symbol. It is said that it will bring all kinds of terrible disasters to people who see them, but this is all superstition and does not affect the power of this magic wand. Xiaoan said in his heart, he should have seen death, he would like to see this magical creature with his own eyes. You try this magic wand. Ollivander looked forward to it. Sean changed the wand from his left hand to his right hand, and then once again cast the magic that had been practiced tens of thousands of times. At the tip of the wand, an invisible frame of magic by Ollivander was being built at an extremely fast speed. The quill on the table flew again. This time, Sean felt extremely smooth, saving half the power of his cast without a wand. Obviously, this was the wand that belonged to Sean. Sean nodded and said to Ollivander, I think it's it. 10 gallons. Ollivander was straightforward. Xiaoan also paid the money neatly. When he was about to go out, the Wei family twins pushed the door and walked in. Hi, clever ghost. I don't know if it was George or Fred who said hello to Sean. Molly praised Sean for being smart in the Broken Cauldron bar just now. I didn't expect that the Wei family twins would give Sean the nickname so quickly, and Sean didn't care. This fits the character of the two troublemakers. My wand has been bought, so come on, troublemaker number 1, troublemaker no 2. Sean smiled and walked out of the Ollivander wand shop. Hey, George, I don't think we will be bored at Hogwarts. Fred said. George looked at Sean who was leaving, and echoed, yes Fred, this is an interesting guy. Xiaoan didn't expect that he casually took the nickname for the Wei family twins, but Yu reading www.yunsha.com won the favor of two troublemakers. At the Madame Morkan gown specialty store, Madame Morkan saw Sean coming, and greeted him enthusiastically, even though there were other customers in the store at this time. The boy who survived the catastrophe, Sean Grills, is finally at school age. Mrs. Morkan's voice caught the eyes of other guests. They looked at Sean in a rush and whispered to the people around him. Sean didn't bother to care about them. It was nothing more than saying that his parents were Death Eaters. If a family is a betrayer. Mrs. Morkan, we are all so familiar, are there any discounts? Sean asked. Mrs. Morkan replied without hesitation, 10 gallons. Sean cursed inwardly, isn't this the original price? Thank you for being so enthusiastic. At this time, a little girl with long chestnut hair came over. The girl had fair skin and delicate features, especially her big blue eyes, as agile as the stars in the long night. Her posture and demeanor revealed aristocratic temperament. Sean had been in this world for so long, and it was the first time he saw such a beautiful girl. He even suspected that this girl had some Viva descent. Hello, Sean Grills, my name is Chris Crouch, and I am also a freshman at Hogwarts this year. Hello, Chris. Sean sounds familiar to the girl's last name, Crouch. This is not the official of the Ministry of Magic, the current director of the International Magic Exchange and Cooperation Department, the last name of Batty Crouch. It seems that Chris is also a member of Crouch, a pure-blooded family. Boy who survived the catastrophe. Chris paused, and then said, one of them, I didn't expect us to be in the same class, so see you at Hogwarts. Sean is a little confused. This girl is also attracted by his fame? The people of Crouch's family should be guarded. But Barty Crouch, Jr., a loyal Death Eater, has miserably harmed this famous pure-blood family. Maybe there are other Death Eaters in this family besides Barty Crouch Jr. After coming out of Mrs. Morgan's robe specialty store, Sean went to the store he was most familiar with in Diagon Alley. Scrap Shop, where all of Sean's teaching materials are sourced. The owner is a sloppy brunette, eagle-nosed old man, and the clothes he wears seem to be picked from the scrap pile. Peter Noel greeted Sean in a friendly way when he saw Sean come in. "Little guy, I don't think you are here to buy 4th grade textbooks." "Old Peter, I need a crucible standard size number 2, a set of glass or crystal vials, a telescope, a brass balance, a pair of dragon leather gloves, and a black pointed cap." Xiaoan reported one by one the equipment he needed on the admission notice. His money was obviously not enough to buy new ones, so he could only come here to buy second-hand goods. As for owls or cats, they are sold in Wonder Zoo next door, but there is no mandatory requirement in the notice that they should be brought to Hogwarts in the 1st grade. Sean does not plan to buy pets to Hogwarts. "Little Sean, I have these things here, don't you know if you have enough money?" Old Peter said. "How much do these cost?" The goods in the scrap shop are not easy to estimate, so I have to bargain with Old Peter. Old Peter did not answer him, but turned around and got into the shelf behind him. After a lot of tricks, Old Peter walked out with a bunch of things in his arms. 14 gallons. Old Peter said. There were only 10 gallons left on Sean. He looked at the tattered pile and thought that the Old Peter's heart was too dark. The greedy Old Peter, this pile of things is worth 7 gallons at most. Sean quoted his price based on the principle of bargaining half. "Little Sean, in terms of being stingy, you are indeed a qualified Grills." Old Peter satirically satirized the Grills family as scumbags, and Sean smiled. "Old Peter, my Uncle Hearns doesn't have money, so you can give it to me cheaper." "Well, 8 gallons, can't be less." "Good Old Peter, thank you, please help me get a cloth bag to pack it." Sean was happy, and finally there were 2 gallons left. Xiaoan walked out of the junk shop with a worn-out linen bag, so that he had all the items needed for school. On July 31st, 1 month before school starts, you can use this time to get familiar with the magic wand. Sean suddenly thought of something. "Isn't it Harry Potter's 9th birthday today? Then I wish you a happy birthday, Harry." Sean went back to the Broken Cauldron bar and went up to the 2nd floor in the noon. It was the room that old Tom had vacated for him. It seemed that this room was much more spacious than Harry's stairwell. Sean is fortunate that he is a pure-blooded wizard and lives in the wizarding world. The Ministry of Magic stipulates that underage wizards are not allowed to use magic in the Muggle world. Broken Cauldron Bar and Diagon Alley belong to the wizarding world. If Sean lived in an ordinary neighborhood like Harry, then he practiced the levitating charm every day, and he would have been detected by the Ministry of Magic. Sean hid in the room and couldn't wait to practice the magic frames in his mind. He directed a wooden spoon that had been broken in 2 on the table and gave a repair. This elementary magic is the same as the floating spell. It only has a magic frame. It is a very basic magic, but the spoon has not moved, and Sean seems to have failed to cast the spell. "I made a mistake, and I didn't build a frame line." Although these basic magic Sean already remembered very well, the first time I got the wand to actually cast the spell, there would still be deviations. "Repair it." The tip of the black walnut wand began to outline a magical frame. This time, Sean's speed was very fast and precise. The 2 sections of the spoon on the table flashed faintly, and then instantly closed, and the spoon was broken into 2 again. It became a complete spoon. Practice makes perfect, just memorizing the magic framework is not enough. Sean exclaimed. Soon a month passed. Hearns was pulling Sean's big suitcase, while Sean was pulling the small suitcase. These two blackened suitcases were genuine ancestors. This is the suitcase that Grandpa Sean used when he was in school. It was later given to Sean's father. Now it's Sean's turn to take them to Hogwarts. The two first took a Muggle bus to King's Cross Station. Sean looked at the 9 platform on the ticket, and looked at the platform ahead and counted them one by one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that's there. Xiaoan was about to pull the suitcase and walk forward, when someone called Xiaoan from behind. Smart Ghost Sean doesn't have to look back to know who this is. Oh no, he doesn't know who it is, he still can't tell who is George and Fred. Mrs. Weasley. Sean turned around and snorted to Molly. There are 5 children standing behind Molly. The Way family twins will not say anything. The other is a little taller with short red curly hair, Percy Weasley. Last time I met at the Broken Cauldron bar, he was more than shy. I have been in the university for 2 years, and I am in the 3rd grade this year. The other one is about 1.78 meters tall Weasley Sean, although he hasn't seen him before, but based on the age of the Weasley children, he should be the 2nd child of the Way family, Charlie Weasley. He will go to Romania to study in the future. The dragon, today should be in 6th grade. As for the little dwarf standing next to Molly, needless to say, Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com is Ron in the Audio Technica. Mrs. Weasley, your 4 children are in Hogwarts, and they must be familiar with the school. If possible, I hope that the Weasley children can take care of little Sean and be friends with him. Anne squinted his slender eyes and forced an ugly smile. Of course, Sean is a smart boy. I am very happy that George and Fred can be friends with him. Molly said with a smile. Sean didn't expect that his uncle could say such a thing, maybe he didn't care too much. Sometimes Hearns's concern for Sean was actually very obvious. The group of people walked from platform 9 and 4 to the Hogwarts train station. With the help of his uncle, Sean moved the suitcase into the train compartment. With the sound of the siren, Sean officially embarked on a journey to Hogwarts, or a journey to the Wizarding World. Sean walked along the car aisle to find a space to sit down, and walked 2 cars all the way, each of which was full. Also know where the Way family twins went. Just thinking of the Way family twins, Xiaoan saw them in the first compartment of the 3rd car. The 2 goods were laughing and laughing with the 2 little girls. Sean shook his head. He found 2 vacancies in the box next door, one with 4 seats. At this time, there were already 2 people sitting in it, a man and a woman, and Sean recognized that the beautiful girl turned out to be Chris. Crouch. He didn't want to sit next to Chris. He always thought the girl was weird, but now he can only make do with it. Sean knocked on the door and asked. Can I sit here? The other boxes are full. Of course, the boy who survived the catastrophe. Chris gave a sweet smile. Chrissy's words caught the attention of the boy nearby, and he looked at Sean. Ming Ming is a pretty little girl, but Sean always feels a sense of incongruity. Hello, my name is Sean Grills. Sean said to the handsome boy over here. Cedric Diggory. The boy nodded and introduced himself. Damn, it turned out to be Cedric, the best student in this class, except me of course. Sean was shocked, and Chris also introduced herself to Cedric. Chrissy Crouch, my grandfather is Barty Crouch, Director of the International Magic Exchange and Cooperation Department. I haven't ran away, your uncle is a Death Eater, and I don't know if you are affected. Xiaoan muttered in his heart. At this time, a girl with a black ponytail walked to the door of the box. She looked at the 3 of them and asked. Are there any seats available here? Yes, that is. Sean said, pointing to the empty seat next to Chris. Thank you, my name is Angelina Johnson. Sean Grills. Chrissy Crouch. Cedric Diggory. The 3 reported their names. Wait, are you the Sean Grills? Angelina stared at Sean in surprise. Sean nodded helplessly. He has seen too many scenes like this. Wait, her name is Angelina Johnson. Isn't that Fred's girlfriend? In this box, Cedric belongs to Hufflepuff and Angelina belongs to Gryffindor. Chris is not sure, but judging from the origin of his pure-blood family, 80% will be assigned to Slytherin. Sean never thought of which college he would be assigned to. The train drove over the vast forests and grasslands for more than 6 hours, and did not stop at the Hogsmeade station until the evening. The 5th grade prefects got off the train first and stood at the door of the train to maintain order. The first-year freshmen are here. A loud voice attracted the freshmen's eyes. It was a giant close to 3 meters. Of course, Sean knew that Hagrid was just a hybrid giant, and the real giant was taller than him. Gosh, he is too big too! Angelina exclaimed. Sean never looked at her, always feeling that she was driving. Hagrid carried a portable lamp and illuminated the first-year freshman with the light. "Where is Sean Grills?" Hagrid asked. "I'm here." Sean replied with difficulty, raising his neck to Hagrid. "You are a lot taller than Harry," Hagrid whispered. Sean is considered mid to high among his peers, with fluffy brown curly hair, which seems to make him taller. "Follow me in the 1st grade." Hagrid took the freshman and walked towards a path near the lake. Hogsmeade Station is built on the edge of Hogsmeade Village. It is to Hogwarts from the small road, and to the village on the other side. The way to go to Hogwarts this time is by boat. Sean also wondered if it would be a night horse carriage. The 4 freshmen took a boat. The boat was enchanted and automatically moved towards Hogwarts. Drove in the direction of Ci. Most of the freshmen came in amazement along the way, while the freshmen born in the family of pure-blood wizards were much calmer. Looking at the magnificent castle in front of him, even though Sean had seen it in a movie before, after seeing it with his own eyes, he was still shocked by its grandeur. After the first year ashore, walk along the stairs, in front of the auditorium. Professor McGonagall still has something to say to you. Hagrid said. Sean, which college do you think you will be assigned to? Chris asked suddenly. The clever ghost must be assigned to Ravenclaw. At this time, the Way family twins came up from behind. This conspicuous red hair, you belong to the Weasley family. Chrissy recognized the origins of the Way family twins at a glance. Hey, Cedric, it would be nice if you could get Gryffindor. The Way family twins said. The Way family twins seemed to know Cedric. Sean thought for a while. Yes, the two of them seemed to live near the same mountain, one in the east and the other in the west. It's not for me to decide. Cedric said. Professor McGonagall was already waiting at the end of the ladder at this time. When the freshmen were all there, Professor McGonagall clapped his hands. Sean closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, there was a hazy white light on the surrounding newborns, and Professor McGonagall was the brightest wizard he had seen so far. Welcome to Hogwarts. Well, you will pass through these doors in a while and gather with other students. However, you must be sorted out before you sit. The 4 colleges at Hogwarts, Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin, will it be the end of the year? Which college scores the highest will win the College Cup. Then, the students are ready, come with me. Professor McGonagall turned and walked towards the auditorium. The dark golden auditorium door opened automatically for the new students, and the bright candle light in the auditorium greeted the fresh blood of Hogwarts walking in. 4 rows of long tables are neatly arranged in the auditorium. There are students from the 4 colleges. Xiaoan roughly estimated that there are more than 400 people, and they have 60 freshmen in this year. Good. Sean stood in the front row, looking at the sorting hat on the stage, so nervous that he didn't even listen to Dumbledore's speech, while on the professor's bench, a long-haired man with a gloomy look was looking at Sean. Sean could feel the man's sight, and looked up. It was Severus Snape sitting on the left side of the professor's chair. Why would Sean recognize Snape at a glance? Who else has Hogwarts? His unique cold temperament? Even though Sean knew he was a good person, reading www.yuyuganshu.com Death Eater's Infernal Affairs. My God, what does he think of me? I'm not Harry, and my eyes don't look like Lily. Sean muttered inwardly. Okay, come up to the person who reports the name next. I will put the sorting cap on your head, and then the sorting cap will decide which college you want to go to. Sean grills. Shit, is there any mistake? I am the first? It's ruthless. Xiaoen cursed inwardly, but walked up with a smile on his face. Isn't ranked by last name? The first person called turned out to be Sean, and he couldn't figure out what sort of order it was. He sat on the low stool. Professor McGonagall put the sorting hat on Sean's head, and at this moment the sorting hat started to move. It is difficult, very difficult. You are brave, smart, hardworking, shrewd, and ambitious. It seems that the 4 colleges are suitable for you. Where should you go? Whatever, it's not Azkaban. Sean muttered in a low voice. He has the help of Magic Eye. It doesn't matter which college he goes to, he can learn well. Azkaban, your idea is very dangerous. Well, don't go to Slytherin. Sean turned his head and looked at Snape in the chair. Then, it's decided, you go to Slytherin. The sorting hat seemed to have deliberately made the opposite decision with Sean. Sean was stunned for a moment. When he reacted, some of the Slytherin seniors were already looking at him with their own eyes. Although some people's eyes seemed unfriendly, Sean was helpless. I suspect you are targeting me. Sean took off the sorting hat and glared at it fiercely. Sean was the first to take his seat amid the applause of the Slytherin seniors. Marcus Flint. A stubby black-haired strong senior greeted Sean. Marcus, a brash man with well-developed limbs and simple mind. This is Sean's evaluation of Marcus. But this reckless Quidditch played well, and later became the Slytherin Quidditch captain, but his hands were too dark and he always liked to make small moves. Cedric Diggory. Professor McGonagall said the second name. Cedric sat on the low stool under the gaze of everyone. At this moment, Sean had an idea and wanted to tease the Way family twins. Hey, Fred! Xiaoen shouted to the Way family twins standing by. He couldn't recognize who Fred was, so he called out a name casually. Are you calling me? One of the Way family twins replied. Yes. Then you made a mistake, I am George. No, you are Fred. Sean said surely. Fred was a little surprised. Before Sean arrived first, he could distinguish the 2 brothers. Well, you guessed it, I am Fred, how did you recognize it? Xiaoen said solemnly, because the 3rd pinch of hair on your left bangs has split ends. Fred really believed it. He turned his head and asked George to help him see if it really split. In fact, Xiaoen vaguely remembered that there were some differences in the personality of the Way family twins. Generally speaking, when 2 people are together, it is Fred who speaks first. He is more lively, while George is relatively introverted. Fred, how about let's make a bet? I bet Cedric will be assigned to Hufflepuff. How about one Seiko? Sean, this one, was determined to win. What do you think, George? Fred asked. Gryffindor, Cedric must go to Gryffindor, George said. At this time, the sorting hat is doing analysis for Cedric: integrity, loyalty, honesty, and fear of hardships. Oh, I'm not talking about Hufflepuff's academy spirit, but about the qualities that Cedric possesses. There is no doubt that he belongs to Hufflepuff. This handsome little guy was seated in Hufflepuff to the warm applause of the Hufflepuff sisters. Well, you won the clever ghost. Fred said in dissatisfaction. It looks like trickster number 1 seems unconvinced, so let's gamble again. Sean looked confident. Angelina Johnson. Professor McGonagall called. Gryffindor, Sean said. The Way family twins discussed it. Hufflepuff, this time we will guess Hufflepuff. And the Sorting Hat also gave the answer at this time. It was Gryffindor, and Sean guessed it correctly. The Way family twins started to quarrel, blaming the other party for not choosing Gryffindor. Shall we gamble again? Sean asked with a grin. I don't know if Sean's luck was too good. He happened to have heard of the two freshmen who went up later, but there was no suspense. He guessed it twice. Won the Way family Gemini 4 times in a row, which made the two troublemakers start to admire Sean a little. Chrissy Crouch, said Professor McGonagall. Chrissy walked up, and when the Sorting Hat hadn't touched her hair, it called out the college Chrissy belonged to. Slytherin. Sean, we are classmates now. Chris said with a smile. Yet. Sean responded casually. After another 10 minutes, all the freshmen were finally sorted out, and the dinner began happily under Dumbledore's command. Xiao nibbled an apple in his mouth and looked at the crowd on the professor's bench. When his eyes closed and opened, the magic eye opened. Damn, Liang is blind to me. The apple in Sean's mouth fell on the table and rolled to the side of Chris's plate. Don't you like apples? Chris asked. It's a bit sour. Sean made up a reason casually. Dumbledore's magic is too strong, and the whole person is shrouded in white light. In Sean's eyes, he is just a big light bulb. Sean rubbed his eyes and stopped looking at Dumbledore. He looked at the professors, and it turned out that the white light of McGonagall and Snape was stronger, and the other teachers were relatively weak. After the dinner, the prefects led the freshmen to the dormitories of their colleges. The number of freshmen in Slytherin was less than that of other colleges. There were 5 boys and 5 girls. And the bedroom seems to have been changed. There is a single room for 2 boys and 1 more person. The same is true for girls. As for who can live in that single room, it becomes a problem. Xiao thought of a way, and he said to the other 4 boys, I think you guys also know that I survived under that unforgivable curse. All 4 nodded. Although I survived, I also have serious sequelae. What sequelae? A boy named Cassius Wallington asked. When I go to sleep at night, I will talk in sleep, and even hit people to death. Sean clenched his fists, deliberately showing great power. The 4 11-year-old boys were innocent. They didn't want to tell the truth from the truth. They just thought that Sean was pitiful and terrifying. Premier, I think we should let Sean live alone. Cassius said to Theo Wald. Theo nodded, then Sean will live alone. Reading www.uugonshu.com. Chris, you also live alone, and everyone else chooses to sleep with them. Chris was born into a famous family, and Theo deliberately took care of her, and it was not unexpected to Sean. The personal world is too important for Sean. He, who possesses magic eyes, is not at the same level as this group of freshmen. Now if he is to go directly to the 3rd grade, he can also cope with the courses with ease. He needs a separate space to study other advanced magic and knowledge in need. Sean went to his room. The double room for 1 person was more spacious. He lay on the bed and found out the first-year curriculum schedule that Theo had just sent them. There are 8 compulsory courses in the 1st grade, including astronomy, herbal medicine, history of magic, spells, transformation, defense against the dark arts, potions, and flying. Except for potions and flying lessons, I have no contact with other courses, so I have to find a reason to use it for self-study. Hogwarts professors always give certain privileges to students who study particularly well. For example, Professor McGonagall later borrowed a time converter from the Ministry of Magic to Hermione to give her more time to study. Multiple elective courses. Sean doesn't want a time converter too. He just needs to excel in each class and then apply for self-study between classes from the professors, so that he has more time to study advanced magic. Potions, I would like to see what is unique about the Half-Blood Prince's textbook. Sean made up his mind, and recently went to find out if Snape's potions textbook is still in the upper grade classroom. Sean may not be able to go in during the day. That classroom is for senior students who are participating in the N.E.W.T level and advanced potions class. Sean can only sneak in to find it at night when there is no one. At 9 o'clock in the morning the next morning, the freshmen started their first class since they enrolled, the spell class in Slytherin and Ravenclaw. The professor of the curse is Ravenclaw's Dean Felius Flivy, a short, white-bearded old man who is only about 1 meter in height. It is said that his great-grandfather is a fairy. Don't look at him so small. But the victorious general in the Hogwarts Duel Club. Students, I am very happy to give you the first class. I am Felius Flivy, the Dean of Ravenclaw. Professor Flivy said to the students in Slytherin. This class will teach students a very practical elementary magic, floating spell. Please open the textbook and turn to the 3rd page. Xiaoen carefully flipped through the 9-handed textbook that was about to fall apart. Does he still use the levitating curse? He can cast spells without a stick, but he still has to impress the professor in the first class. Students first read the origin of the levitating curse and the magic framework. I will demonstrate it to you later. Flavie said. The floating spell is very simple, and my mother often uses it at home. Cassius said to Graham, who was on the side. Then he chanted the spell confidently and swung his wand, and said to the feather on the table, Yugatum Leviosa. Sean sat aside watching him perform with interest. The feather's magical effect really moved, but the next second it flew out like a sharp arrow, deeply inserted into Flavie's podium table. Flavie was startled. Cassius, I think you should put down your wand first. Cassius lowered his head awkwardly and put away his wand amidst the laughter of his classmates. Sean exclaimed, Can the levitating curse still be used like this? He patted Cassius on the shoulder with great interest, and asked in a low voice, Cassius, how did you do it just now? Cassius was embarrassed when he lost his face in front of his classmates. Sean also asked him specially. He thought that Sean was laughing at him, so he said with some unpleasantness, Do you want to laugh at me too? Xiaoen knew that he had misunderstood, and quickly explained, No, I think you were very good just now. I want to learn, how did you do it? I don't know either. Cassius scratched his head. Sean regretted for a while. He didn't open the eyes of magic just now. After all, this kind of low-grade class is not worth his waste of energy and magic to open eyes, but he did not expect that Cassius had an accident. What went wrong would make the levitation charm so aggressive? If I just opened the eyes of magic, I could see Cassius's wrong magic frame. 10 minutes later, Professor Flavie waved his hand to signal the students to calm down. He will demonstrate the levitating charm once, and Sean opened the magic eye. Yugatum Leviosa. Flavie waved his wrist lightly, and uttered the spell clearly, which was a standard textbook floating spell. The speed at which this magic framework is built is the old professor at first glance. Sean secretly said. But Sean is now almost the same as Flavie in terms of levitating charm. Which classmate below would like to give it a try? Flavie looked at the more than 30 students below, hoping that anyone would stand up and be a demonstration. But after the embarrassment of the card resting just now, other students dare not cast spells casually anymore. If they make a joke in front of their classmates, it will be ashamed. Professor, I'll try it. Sean raised his hand. Sean Grills, you come to demonstrate for the students. Sean sat in the seat, everyone's eyes were on him, and Chrissy turned to look at Sean in the front row. Sean calmly drew his wand from his robe, and said to the feather on the table, Yugatum Leviosa. The feathers floated slowly under the guidance of the magic wand. When the wand goes to the left, the feathers go to the left, and when the wand goes up, the feathers go up. Very good. This is a very standard floating spell. It is the first bonus point in the new semester. I think Slytherin should be given 5 points. The Slytherin students applauded Sean happily. Flavie didn't expect that Sean would learn the levitation curse so quickly, and it would normally take 3 classes for students to master it. As expected of the boy who survived a catastrophe, Chris said. With Sean, the Academy Cup must belong to Slytherin. A Slytherin girl said. The second class after the curse class is the History of Magic, taught by Professor Binns, the only ghost professor at Hogwarts. Professor Binns was very old when he founded Hogwarts, but he was very knowledgeable, quick-thinking, and clear-thinking, so he was invited to be a professor of history of magic at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Until one day he forgot to bring his body in class and died because of it, but he did not stop his teaching career. The history of magic is an extremely boring course. Binns is also an extremely rigid and boring professor. He always reads the textbook in a monotonous voice. The combination of the two is simply a lullaby. Slytherin and Hufflepuff's classmates are low and drowsy, and the classmates who are not asleep are not listening to the class seriously, but secretly passing small notes. Professor Binns suddenly used his ghostly incorporeal body to cross the podium to the student's desk. Who can tell me what happened in 1612? Professor Binns suddenly asked. Although Sean has not been attending the class, he discussed with Cassius the process of his mistakenly casting the levitating charm just now, hoping to understand which magic frames Cassius changed to make the levitating charm mutate into an attack. The Curse of Sex. UU reading www.uuganshu.com. If it could evolve a curse with 10,000 arrows, it would be amazing. Sean said inwardly. For Professor Binns's question, Sean thinks that no one in this class can answer it, because Professor Binns just didn't talk about this content at all. This is the content that will be covered in the 17th unit of History of Magic. Professor Binns probably saw that the students in this class were too undisciplined and wanted to teach them a lesson. You will answer. Professor Binns pointed to Sean in the second row and said that Professor Binns must have seen him and Cassius whispering just now. The big event in 1612, I think it should be the First Goblin Rebellion. Professor Binns was a little surprised. He thought no students knew about the incident, so he asked. Where did the Fairy Rebellion start? It's the Pig's Head Bar in Hogsmeade Village. Who is the leader of the rebels? Professor Binns was unrelenting. He must ask Sean, otherwise he would be too shameless. Professor Binns, I think this should be left to talk about when we are in Unit 17. Sean didn't want to show his excellence in front of Professor Binns in this way. Like Professor Flavy's question in the previous class, Sean's way of showing his own abilities can not only show his talents, but also win the favor of Professor Flavy. In this situation, Professor Binns obviously wanted to kill the chickens and the monkeys, and the discipline in the class. Now Sean has answered all the questions that were used to embarrass him, so Professor Binns is very shameless. Cedric looked at Sean from the side. He felt that Sean would be a strong competitor. I just heard that Sean was the first to successfully cast the spell in the spell class with Ravenclaw. Sean grills, you are very good, I think you have already read History of Magic. Professor Binns said coldly. Yes, Professor Binns. Although Sean knew that Professor Binns was choking him, he still did not show weakness. Very well, you already know how to do it, and you won't use it in my class in the future. Professor Binns's tone was very obvious with anger. The other students were frightened. They were worried for Sean. They offended the professor after enrolling in the second class. I am afraid that the future will not be easier. At this time, the bell rang for the end of Get Out of Class, and Professor Binns assigned homework to the students below. Everyone should go back and copy the content of today's class, and hand it in next class, except for Sean. Professor Binns looked at Sean and said. Cassius whispered to the side, Professor Binns won't really stop Sean from the history of magic, right? Sean, you have to tell Professor Snape about this. Chrissy reminded. Snape is the Dean of Slytherin, and he is also a well-known student who defends his college. The contradiction between Sean and Professor Binns should not be difficult to resolve if Snape comes forward. At this time, outside the classroom, saying that CAO is coming, Snape stood at the door and shouted indifferently, "Sean!" Xiaoen walked out of the classroom under the watchful eyes of his classmates. "Professor Snape, what can I do?" Sean asked. "Principal Dumbledore wants to see you and come with me." As he said, Snape turned and walked towards the principal's office. "Old Deng wants to see me? I won't get the headmaster's attention so soon, right?" Xiaoen secretly said. From behind the stone statue in front of the principal's office, the two took an escalator and entered the office. The walls of the office were covered with portraits of the old principals, men and women. They all snored gently in their respective frames. There is also a huge table in the room with claw-shaped legs and his pet phoenix fox perched on a shelf behind the door. On the fourth floor of one of these bookshelves, there is also the sorting hat for Sean. "See you again, Sean grills. "I don't want to see you that much." Sean glared at it. Dumbledore sat at his desk with a smile and looked at Sean. "Tom and Herns have trained you very well." Sean thought for a while. It seems that Dumbledore has known about self-taught Hogwarts courses in the Broken Cauldron in the past few years. This is not surprising, after all, Dumbledore has many eyes and is well informed. "Professor, do you know old Tom and my uncle?" Sean asked, pretending to be puzzled. Dumbledore did not answer this question. Instead, he said, "You did a great job in class today. Professor Flitwick praised you very much, and Professor Binns was so angry at your excellence." "Professor Binns is not a ghost, he won't die, right?" Sean whispered. "If you hadn't been 2 years older than Harry, I would have thought you were the prophesied boy," Dumbledore said. "What kind of prophecy?" Sean asked. "A prophecy about the Savior." Snape on the side heard this and suddenly interrupted Dumbledore, "Professor, there is no need to tell a child about these things. He is a child and an excellent child, and Sean's talent ranks among the children taught at Hogwarts in the past 50 years. Dumbledore gave Sean a very high evaluation. "I have opened the plugin and it is only the top ranking, not the most powerful. What kind of people have been out of Hogwarts in the past 50 years, oh, Voldemort." Sean was convinced. Dumbledore and Snape were dumbfounding and talking some cryptic secrets. Sean understood it. Dumbledore wanted to train him because he was good. To cultivate an excellent student into the backbone of the fight against the Death Eaters, and to be loyal to him, this is what Dumbledore needs. "Professor, is there anything I need to do?" Xiaoen asked pretendingly. "It's okay, let's take a lunch break," Dumbledore said. "Okay, Professor." Sean turned and was about to leave. "Professor Binns, I'll talk about it, don't worry," Dumbledore said. Xiaoen turned around and asked seriously, "Really? I don't have to go to the history of magicians anymore?" "No, Professor Binns only said such a thing when he was angry for a while." Xiaoen sighed slightly disappointed, "I thought I really didn't need to go on it." Dumbledore saw Sean's reaction, and he was stunned for a while. In his inertial thinking, he would think that Sean was worried about not being able to go to the history of magic. He did not expect that on the contrary, Sean was because he wanted to go to magic. She was disappointed. "You don't want to go to the history of magic?" Dumbledore asked. "You should also know that I have taught myself the course." Sean paused and then said, "Including the 3rd grade." Dumbledore did know that Sean had bought some Hogwarts textbooks from the Diagon Alley scrap shop for self-study, but he still didn't know how well Sean's self-study was. He planned to observe him for a while and then give it to him. Some learning privileges. This needs to be considered again, after all, you have only enrolled in 2 classes. What kind of considerations are needed? Tests. Sean thought for a while. The history of magic is considered to be a liberal arts class. To check, he can only produce test papers for him to take the test. UU reading www.uugonshu.com. A week later, I will ask Professor Binns to give you a final exam level paper. The content of the exam is History of Magic. If you can get excellent results in the test, I promise you not to go to the History of Magic. Hogwarts test scores are divided into excellent, good, passing, poor, and very poor. Usually, a certain certificate is required, and the test scores must reach the level of excellent, but this is not difficult for Sean. His body is not an 11-year-old soul. If you treat him as an ordinary boy, you will suffer a lot. Is there only a history of magic? Sean asked. Do you want to test something else? Snape looked at Sean impatiently. He felt that what Sean was asking was nonsense. The book History of Magic alone was enough for him to take the test. He still wanted to what? I've taken all the exams, so let's take the other subjects together, such as spell class, astronomy class, herbal medicine class, transfiguration, defense against the dark arts. Sean said with a smile. Since you are confident, then I will let the professors of these courses write out a final exam paper for you separately, but now the professors just start school don't have time, and the test for you will be set on Monday in a month. Dumbledore said. Okay, Professor, then I'll go first. Watching Sean leave the principal's office, Snape said to Dumbledore, the Confederation has killed him, even though he has an unusual talent. Snape's worries were not alarmist. In the history of Hogwarts, there were many talented students who lost themselves because of their arrogance. But his worries about Sean are unnecessary. Sean is a man who does what he can and scrutinizes the degree. From this point of view, he and Slytherin are really similar in spirit. So you, as the Dean, must always pay attention to him. He is different from Harry. I can't feel the power of black magic in him. How he survived the unforgivable curse is also worthy of our inquiry. Dumbledore never does useless work. He is a man of foresight. The things that deserve his attention in Sean are not only his outstanding talents, but also the power to resist the unforgivable curse. Harry had a breath of black magic on his forehead because there was a mark left by Voldemort on his forehead, and that scar contained some of Voldemort's power. Xiaoyan did not have such scars on his body, not even pimples, and his skin was smooth and white. And Harry was able to survive the Avada sorcery, and only left a scar. It was because of the protection of his mother Lily. Rejected Sean's speculation that what Lily applied to Harry was an ancient blood relative magic. The caster and the casted must be blood relatives, and the casted must be underage, because this magic will be invalid after adulthood. These are the prerequisites for casting spells, so some scholars believe that this powerful magic is a minor protection law. Then there are the three elements of magic: magic frame, spell, and mental power. The magic frame of this ancient magic must be completed by combining as many as dozens of frames together. This level of difficult magic cannot be learned by ordinary wizards. Sean remembers that Dumbledore said many times that Lily protected Harry because of love. There is no doubt that the caster must have sincere and selfless love for the caster. There are too many restrictions on this magic, so people who know it may not be able to use it. Dumbledore's magic power is high. It is not difficult for him to build dozens of magic frames, but he does not meet other casting conditions. And Lily has an extraordinary gift for magic and is full of maternal love for the young Harry. She can cast the ancient protection spell and make it work. It is precisely because the conditions for casting this ancient protection spell are too harsh, it has not been promoted, and Sean even suspects that it contains some life magic content. Because this magic is difficult to replicate, Dumbledore would think about finding other ways to fight the unforgivable curse. The appearance of Sean caught his attention. Thanks to Dumbledore being a man of justice, he did not use the forbidden curse of Dementor to probe Sean's memory. After all, it invades the brains of others and does some harm to the caster. Naturally, Dumbledore will not do harm. A child. Sean was eating lunch in the auditorium at this time, unaware that he was listed as a special observation subject by Dumbledore. Cedric walked over from Hufflepuff's long table. "Are you all right? Professor Binns seems very angry." Sean ate the crispy fries and couldn't see any sadness. It's okay, I'm happy without copying the textbook, it's too late. What did Professor Snape tell you? Chris poked her head curiously. Professor Snape didn't say anything, but Professor Dumbledore. He knew that I was doing well in class, and he praised me a few words. Sean said with a smile. As expected, it is you, Sean, you are so amazing, even Professor Dumbledore admires you. Cassius echoed exaggeratedly. Sean laughed and didn't say anything. Don't look at him now eating fries and drinking juice at ease, but he was panicked. I was so careless. Sean was scared after a while. When he came out of the principal's office, Sean let out a long sigh of relief. He saw a magic prop, Dumbledore's pensieve, beside the bookshelf on the floor in the office. It is a magic item. After one person extracts his own memory and puts it in the basin, the memory can be reproduced, and other people can also use this basin to see their own memories. Extracting memories can only extract his own, others cannot extract. As a traverser, Sean has many secrets. Although Dumbledore could not extract his memory, he thought of another magic with a similar function. The soul takes the mind. This is a forbidden technique, which can be invaded into the mind of the caster without the consent of the caster. There is a professor in the academy who used this forbidden technique, Severus Snape. The two people called me to the principal's office on the first day of school. There is no good thing. It seems that they have to find a way to sneak into the forbidden book area as soon as possible and learn occlumency. The opposite of the magic is occlumency, which can help the operator clean up the emotions and thoughts in the brain, and can even suppress a certain memory or emotion, so that the person who explores it can't find it, and then performs the operation. The person can fabricate a lie and create a false memory to confuse the snooper. This kind of advanced occlumency, to put it simply, is that what I don't want you to see is invisible to you, and what you see is what I want you to see. And there is a professor at Hogwarts who is proficient in occlumency. Coincidentally, he is still Snape. Snape was undercover under Voldemort's eyes. If he wasn't proficient in occlumency, he would have died long ago. I hate it, why don't I have an invisible cloak? Sean sighed. The herbal medicine lesson in the afternoon was with Gryffindor, and the twins of the Way family reached out when they saw Sean. Clever ghost, I heard that Professor Binns was half to death in the magic history lesson in the morning. Fred said. What half dead? You reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Professor Binns is already dead? All right. George corrected him with his mouth. What are you two doing? You want to bet again? Give me yesterday's money first. Xiaoan brought up the embarrassment of Wei's twins again. Last night, during the sorting ceremony, the Wei's twins still owed Sean 4 SIK. Did not give it to him. Clever ghost, why don't you join us? We will form a Hogwarts trio. Fred directly ignored Sean's words and suggested to him. Sean took the brother's hands off his shoulders. I don't have any spoof skills. No, you have. You see, you are angry with Professor Binns, you are responsible for evil, we are responsible for doing it. George said solemnly. Sean glanced at him helplessly. What kind of thoughts were all this? Messed up, he returned to the Slytherin queue, and Cassius whispered when he saw him coming. Don't get too close to the Weasleys. Weasleys are an alternative in the pure-blooded family. They are poor and like to be close to muggles. Cassius was right. Chris agreed. Sean shook his head, these pure-blooded Slytherins are still too extreme. The professor of herbal medicine is Pomona Sprout, the dean of Hufflepuff. This is a slightly chubby lady with flowing grey hair. Sean took this class very seriously. In addition to learning the medicinal properties of herbal medicine must also learn how to cultivate magical plants. After all, there are some special medicines, and the herbs that need to be used are not so easy to buy, which requires the herbalist himself to cultivate. Professor Sprout had several specialized medicine gardens in Hogwarts, and many of the plants in them were grown for Snape's potions class. Sean has already memorized the book Thousands of Magical Herbs and Mushrooms, and the rest is personal contact with these strange plants.